Hi and welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining me. So today what I want to talk about is the second of the Analogue Productions UHQR Steely Dan releases, Countdown to Ecstasy. Now this, as anyone who knows Steely Dan will know, was their second album, released a year later than Can't Buy a Thrill, which I've already talked about, reviewed, which I'll put a link to up here. And there is absolutely no doubt about their, sheer magnificence. I can quite understand why someone would think Steely Dan are their favourite band. I could absolutely understand that and fully agree. So I've got some of the Steely Dan albums on vinyl, and funny enough, this is one that I didn't have. And really, the only reason for that is that there's no big singles on it, so it just never found its way into my collection. Got it, I've listened to it quite a bit on sort of Tidal, or now Cubase. I've actually closed my Tidal account and got Cubase, but this is one that kind of eluded me. But having heard how good Can't Buy a Thrill was, I wasn't really intending getting all of them, but fear of missing out. This one came out and sort of like, listen to it a bit more streaming, and then bless them, I need to give a nod to my local record shop, Raves from the Grave, because I went down there and they had this, and I'd already picked this up. I got this at the weekend from the Vinyl Adventure when I was at the Bristol Hi-Fi show. So I popped into Raves and they had this there in their second hand. And this is not it's not an original. It's a UK 1982 issue. It's in perfect condition. And interesting enough, if you read the run-out proof information, you can see that this is actually, they've used the same plates as the 1974 UK issue on ABC Records. It's got the ABC matrix number there scratched out. Obviously, if it was recut, that wouldn't be there. So, I will get into the listening in a minute. But anyway, as I say, it wasn't my favourite of the Steely Dan albums, but I am discovering a newfound appreciation for Steely Dan. Well, not newly found, refound, let's say, through these UHQRs. It really is increasing my appreciation. So let's just quickly go through what you get. We've seen these before. They're a very nice stout kind of box, and then in there, this is all really nice. We've got a UHQR certificate. It says there's 20,000 copies of this album pressed. UHQR and Clarity Vinyl patents. A technical information sheet on the production, which is very thorough and really good to see. I always like looking in these. Acoustic sounds. What's new? Okay, this is the same as the previous one. It hasn't been updated since the last one I looked at. So, anyway, and then back to this. An absolutely superb, beautiful album cover, fully glossy, absolutely beautiful, really thick card. With the lyrics inside. Now, the lyrics aren't on my UK, say original, it's not original. They're not on my UK issue, a 1982 issue. I don't know whether you get these, but I do like to have the lyrics, frankly. It makes it much, you get more involved, I think. Actually tells you a little bit about the songs as well, which is kind of cool. And then not last actually, where are we? We've got a book. Okay, Steely Dan, Countdown to Ecstasy, liner notes by Donald Fagen. Oh, and there we go, those are the original masters, which is interesting. So ABC Dunhill Records, 30 IPS Dolby, done at the Mastering Lab. Very nice. Very nice. Mastered by Bernie Grundman from those original tapes, pressed at QRP, and then lastly we've got the vinyl here, and I do like the way these are. I really like the way these are packaged separately, and I have cleaned these, as I've explained in my sort of hi-fi system and record cleaning and all the rest of it. I clean everything that comes in, but I'd like to point out they are absolutely silent and absolutely flat as a pancake, which is a real issue these days. It's becoming increasingly rare to find a record that's absolutely flat, and I'm a bit of a stickler for it. If the record isn't flat, you can kiss goodbye to getting accurate VTA, stylus rake angle, and you're not reading the groove properly. It's as simple as that. So beautiful records, two of them, 200 gram, 45 RPM, and it's you know, as I say, you know, we've discussed these UHQR pressings before, and there's no question that what you get is extremely nice, extremely nice. You can really feel proud, have a pride of ownership of these releases. So let me pop it all back in here, and I shall get on to the listening and what it sounded like. And that really is, again, it's kind of interesting. Let me just pop these away. Right. I'm getting quite a collection of these UHQRs now. Got the two Steely Dans. I've got two Miles Davis, Rastaman Vibration, and Jimi Hendrix Are You Experienced. So that's a few. And then hot off the press, literally just delivered, Exodus, Bob Marley Exodus. I haven't even opened it yet. It's just been turned up. So I shall get that opened later today or tomorrow or something, and have a listen to that one too. So anyway, Countdown to Ecstasy. As I say, this is I just picked this up to compare, really. And as we all know with Steely Dan, I think we can all fully appreciate this. The records sound phenomenal. All of their records sound phenomenal. And this one, which I say, Raves from the Grave, they were very kind to lend it to me just for this comparison. They're selling it for £12. £12 for I'd say near mint minus, maybe VG++, early pressing, not original but early, of a phenomenal album. I think that's very, very worth having. And anyway, let me just go through the listening. So I played this all the way through first. As I say, up until then I'd only really played it on Tidal or Cubase, and it's, you know, right from the word go. I mean, the song opens with sort of just drum beats, and it's just such a wonderful, very, 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 very real sound. You can hear the body of the drum, the skin of the drum, the ambience, the space that they're in. The bass cuts in, it's tight, it's tuneful, the guitars kind of kick in. You've got at least two guitars with a sort of a dirty sort of fuzz guitar riff in the sort of the right hand of the stage, and then on the left you've got an absolute liquid kind of guitar tremolo kind of riff going on. You've got hand claps, you've got the piano, real kind of boogie woogie piano coming in, and the voices. Donald Fagen's on lead vocal on this whole album, by the way. The only real change is David Palmer, who performed lead vocals on some of the tracks on the first album. isn't really on this album. He's listed in the additional background vocals, but he's not main vocalist. Anyway, you kind of, you listen through the whole album. Razor Boy, that's the second track. It's a beautiful, beautiful song. Some fantastic pedal steel guitar. Boston Rags, the next one up. It's just really groovy. I mean, again, one of the things about Steely Dan, their sense of timing. So why does Steely Dan records sound so damn good? I mean, the first thing, they are phenomenal songwriters. I mean, they really, think of them in the same league as sort of ABBA or Burt Bacharach or that kind of thing. They just know and understand the raw, basic essence of writing a good, catchy riff, a song, a tune, a melody. So they're phenomenal songwriters. They are extremely proficient musicians. And then they are fastidious sort of engineers, if you like, technicians. And I would say sort of consummate artists. So you put those four things together and you just end up with a whole which is brilliantly conceived, nothing kind of not needed, nothing superfluous. It's just every element, like in a brilliant painting, every element, every brush stroke is laid down with a purpose. And it's the same here, and it's not so much every brushstroke is laid down with a purpose, but every brushstroke is also laid down with a sensitivity of touch, and the overall composition is seen with a real artist's eye, vision of the whole, and then the final sort of execution, the finishing of everything. It's just polished. It's unbelievable. So continuing with the listen. They just go on, this whole sense of just perfect timing, phenomenal space, interplay of musicians, the one element bouncing off another. Your Gold Teeth, that's the last track on side one. Gorgeous electric piano, funky bass, hypnotic rhythms, delicious guitar licks. It just goes on and on and on and on and on. And then I've just got very brief notes here. And then we get over to side two, Showbiz Kids. Let me get hold of the UHQR for this. So, multiple layers of vocals. The sense of musical timing is just unbelievable. My old school, all the same comments apply. You've got this really kind of bassy, bluesy sax sort of horn section going on. It really kind of reminiscent of the Blues Brothers sort of style. Pearl of the Quarter, again, beautiful pedal steel again brought into the mix. It's really funky, just amazing timing to the bass. And then rounding the record off, King of the World. Again, it's just all those wonderful elements. The piano has just got a real resonant sound to it. There's this funky kind of wah-wah guitar as well as a second guitar. The vocals are slightly distant, but there's it's just quite awesome. It really is. Anyway, so that's listening to this. Now, for the £12 that Raves from the Grave are asking for this secondhand in exceptional condition, I mean, what more could you ask for? I mean, it is. I mean, the truth of the matter is, I got this, just borrowed it because I bought this, and I bought this really. I couldn't not. It was like one of those, fear of missing out kind of things. It was. Having heard the first one, it was there. It was standing there in front of David Brook at the show. There's a pile of these, and I just like, God, I can't not have it. And he offered me a good deal, and yeah, okay, gotta have it. I won't regret it, and I don't regret it. And it's funny listening to it all the way through. it's just as good it's just as good an album as the first one. The only difference is it doesn't have the hit singles, but it is just as good an album. So yeah, I kind of, I kick myself for even umming and ahhing. What a waste of time that was. But the album is phenomenal, and if you haven't got it, go and buy something like this. And you pick that up for £10-20, something like this, an early pressing. I'd put money on the fact that the original US pressings sound even better still. So just get it. Simple as that. It is a phenomenal album. But anyway, let's go back to the UHQR and playing this through again. Now, how did it differ? Right. Okay. So track one. The UHQR is cleaner. It really is. And it's sort of, in a way, it was almost underwhelming. And you sort of think, well, it's 10 times the price. Is it worth? It's not 10 times better. But this is the thing. If you've got something where you've got an original that is so damn good, like frankly all the Steely Dan albums. And you could say the same about the Bob Marleys. They're all phenomenal sounding records. So to improve upon them, first thing is, it's a very hard thing to do. So it ain't going to come cheap. And secondly, that degree of improvement could be less than the degree of improvement over something where the first time round they did a bad job. So again, it's not going to necessarily knock you out. So anyway, first track, it is clearly better. It's cleaner, I would say. But it didn't blow me away. Second track, Razor Boy. Again, it just sounded beautiful, but I wasn't thinking, wow, this is masses better. There was more space. It did sound cleaner. The background's slightly quieter because it's totally silent here, and but this isn't a terrible cut. So, and then Boston Rags, sorry, plural, which is the third track on side one of the regular album, because it's the first track, side two of this being 45 RPM. And I would say at this point there was notably more separation. The drums, the piano were better. The rear guitar in the right channel, which was sitting further back, it was in a better space, and it had a better weight. And I would say that as you sort of go halfway through the song, it sort of turns into a bit more dirty, funky, growly kind of bass and guitar riffs going on, and it's more meaty in this. I'd say there's more kind of. When I say there's more dirt, I don't mean there's more dirt. It's a dirtier sound, but there's more colour in that grungy kind of dirty sort of growly, sort of more rocking bit towards the end. And then Your Gold Teeth. Now, again, important to realise that track is the last one on the side of this, and we all know last tracks on the side generally suffer slightly in terms of quality. So on the UHQR, I'd say far more space, far more weight, and far more colour. And it's kind of both soft and smooth at the same time. So there's every little bit of the resolution, but it's just slightly clearer, slightly cleaner, and presented in a more overall light and spacious air, if you like, or canvas. And then we go on to disc 2 here, which is side 2 of the original LP, Showbiz Kids. And I think at this point I'm kind of tuning in to what this is doing, but this is a subconscious kind of tuning in. The bass has got more weight, and there's more, weight, more apparent weight to the piano too. The layered guitars, the layered vocals, they're all better defined. And there's a point where you've got Fagan playing a synthesizer, early lovely analog synth. I'm not sure what one, but he's playing that on the left channel, and you've got this sort of guitar slightly rearward on the right channel, and they're doing a kind of a call and response thing, and it's just that whole structure, the architecture of the song, the composition, if you like, just makes more intuitive space. The sound is cleaner and clearer, the space between them, but it's that the subtle kind of just the intonation of every note, the feel comes across better. And anyway, then we come on to My Old School. Again, more transparency, more clarity, but all of this is not, as you're listening for the first listen, having listened to this, the feeling is it's not massively better. It's very much definitely better. There's no question of that, none whatsoever. There's nothing that's worse. But it's like, how much better is it? Is it 10 times better? No, of course not. But it is better. Then we get on to Pearl of the Quarter, and the opening of that, it's there's definitely more colourful. There's more micro detail. There's more beautiful colour and texture and shape in the analog synths. And then we come into King of the World, the last track, and again it's the same thing. There is more colour, there's more texture, more micro detail, more feeling, more soul. It's like, if you think of all of your senses, it's like there's more aroma, there's more. It doesn't seem very big, but then the real interesting thing goes. So having listened to this all the way through, immediately after listening to this all the way through, I then decided, right, okay, let's go back. So then we're back to this, and that's where the real shocker was, because going back from here to here, what seemed like, this is slightly better. Definitely better, but not massively so. When you go back, this doesn't sound bad, but suddenly, in comparison, it sounds thin and it sounds hollow. And those are the two things I wrote down. It just sounds a bit thin and a bit hollow. And previously, before hearing this sounded bloody phenomenal. So, that's really where it is. So if you can think of, like, if you know this and you imagine it as a photograph, for instance, think of a photograph that you took it back in the early 70s, a 1973 photograph, for instance. Typically, if you've got one of those, colour photograph, its colours will have faded by now, and the detail and it'll all just seem a little bit faded, a little bit washed out. Whereas this one's kind of just got all of the body, all of the colour, all of the texture. And I really think that's where it is. And people say, people worry about, the tapes are 40 years old now, or 50 years old? 50 years old now, in fact. Yeah, it is, isn't it? Good grief, yeah, 50 years old. So I don't believe the tapes fade anything like people claim they do. I really don't. In fact, I know that they don't, if they're properly looked after, because I've got some from those eras. So that's just plain not necessarily the case. Anything can get damaged if you don't look after it, but if you look after it, tape doesn't degrade, not necessarily. So to sum up, is the UHQR better? Yes, it is. Is it noticeably better? Yes, it's noticeably better. Would I recommend it over this? I mean, if you like the music and you're into your sound, then no question, you will appreciate it, because it is noticeably better. I shall return this to Raves from the Grave and thank them very much for loaning it to me. If I had already owned this, I would be selling it, because this is my new go-to playing copy. And I will thoroughly enjoy the album. I mean, I already now thoroughly enjoy the album. It's funny, when you listen to stuff on Spotify or Tidal or Cubuzz or whatever you listen to, it's interesting because I use that really primarily as a, just a dipping my toe in the water with records I don't particularly know well. Do I like this? Do I want to spend 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 100, 200 pounds on a record? So I'll have a listen on that. And often you can listen on that and you think, well, it's okay. And then you get a really good pressing of it. And it's like, it's not just okay, it's bloody fantastic. And this really is. And I mean, the fact that it doesn't have any singles on it, that's really the reason I hadn't invested in it, in a regular vinyl form years and years ago. Most of my Steely Dan is just regular vinyl. I've got Asia, I've got the original Mo-Fi of that, which I've had since the 80s or 90s or whenever it came out. But I think 80s. I did this a disservice by not buying it because of, by not buying it, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, because of the lack of singles. It's a phenomenal album, and it is every bit as musically absolutely on the money as their other albums. And it's actually quite nice that it doesn't have a singles on it. They can sort of sometimes sway your opinion unfairly in favour of something which is not altogether musically nourishing or satisfying, if you know what I mean. So anyway, well done, Chad. Thank you very much. I will probably be buying the other Steely Dan UHQRs, although I do have to restrict myself these days. Money is not endless, and what with that and tapes and all the rest of it, that people seem to be being bombarded by rather expensive but very, very, very have releases these days. This one is an absolute cracker. And I think of all the reissue labels, of all the sort of the brands, if you like, the sub-brands, UHQR, in my opinion, flawless so far. Anyway, I'd like to say thank you very, very, very much for watching. And I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please click the like button. If you're enjoying the channel, please click the subscribe button. Both those things help the channel, but help the channel massively, its reach. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. I do love reading your comments. There were some really interesting and great observations that some of you leave. I do enjoy that. So once again, thank you very, very, very much. And I'll see you all soon. Cheers for now. Bye-bye. Bye.